believe it is the business of the President of the United States to concern himself with the general welfare and the public interest. We need a permanent unemployment insurance program so that there are those who want to work and can't find a job will not be shifted and living on a marginal income without hope for themselves. This country is a free society in which everyone can succeed or fail based on what they have inside of them, not what they have outside.
Welcome to Age of the Obsolete, the weekly podcast that examines the intersection of technology, democracy, and the future of work. I'm your host, John Ravito. In 1933, the United States was in the depths of the Great Depression, when more than 25% of the workforce, approximately 34 million people, unemployed. In response, President Roosevelt implemented what's come to be known as the New Deal, a set of federal economic recovery and job creation. One of the most notable New Deal programs, the Social Security Act of 1935, provided unemployment benefits and disability insurance, as well as an economic safety net for retirement and old age.
The millions of today want and have a right to the same security that their forefathers sought in this nation. The assurance that with health and the willingness to work, they will find a place for themselves in the social and economic system of the time. Because it has become increasingly difficult for individuals to build their own security single-handed, government must now step in and help them lay the foundation stones, just as government in the past has helped lay the foundation of business and industry. We must face the fact that in this country, we have a rich man's security and a poor man's security, and that the government owes equal obligations to both.
Legislation such as the Social Security Act, as well as Medicaid and Medicare, which followed in the 1960s, is based on the concept of social justice and concerns itself with the equitable distribution of both wealth and opportunity within our society. Social justice arose as part of the Catholic workers' movement of the 1840s and fully manifested during the Progressive Era, when politicians and activists combined to address the economic abuses of the Industrial Revolution and the Gilded Age. But that was then. What about today? With the dual threats of artificial intelligence and automation looming on the horizon, are we moving towards a second era when new forms of Social Security will be needed to protect American workers from even greater and economic inequality? According to research done at Oxford University, the confluence of artificial intelligence and automation may result in the elimination of approximately 47% of the current jobs in the U.S. Not just low-skilled, low-paying jobs, but also jobs in the legal, healthcare, and financial industries. The prospect of such an occurrence is so threatening that most people close their eyes to the warning signs. But not everyone. Already, a host of business leaders, from Richard Branson to Mark Zuckerberg, are sounding the alarm. Listen as Tesla CEO Elon Musk explains the problem as well as one possible solution.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better. Okay. What to do about mass unemployment? A massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice. These are not things that I wish would happen. These are simply things that I think probably will happen. And if my assessment is correct and they probably will happen, then we need to say, what are we going to do about it? And I think some kind of a universal basic income is going to be necessary.
What is universal basic income? UBI is a calamity of large-scale unemployment brought about by technology. UBI is already being trialed in a variety of countries around the world. In the U.S., the idea dates back to Tom Paine, who in the late 18th century proposed what he called a citizen's stipend in his pamphlet on Agrarian Justice. In its current manifestation, universal basic income is a guaranteed sum of money paid at regular intervals to every U.S. citizen. The word basic implies that the amount given is enough to cover each person's economic needs. The payment would be made regardless of employment status or economic contribution, without any strings attached, which means there are no work requirements nor any requirement to look for work. If you're out of work, UBI would cover your needs as you searched for new employment. For those who can only find part-time work, UBI would supplement their income. For those employed full-time, UBI would act as a buffer against the threat of unemployment, and for those who cannot find work at all, UBI would protect them from falling into poverty and despair. Is UBI a viable economic response to large-scale unemployment? The issue remains hotly debated. Those supporting UBI talk about economic justice and a post-work society in which each individual will be able to maintain their dignity. Those opposing UBI call it nothing more than a handout that will undermine the American work ethic. Many argue that the cost will be too high. What do I think? While I'm a firm believer in economic justice, I have my doubts as to whether UBI will ever be implemented here in the United States. More than any other people, Americans are driven to work. From the time we're born, we're taught that our identities are inextricably tied to the work we do. We therefore work longer hours and take far less vacation than any of the other developed nations. Even in periods of economic recession, the stigma of unemployment remains high. Even if you're out of work, it's not because of market forces, but because of your personal shortcomings. In the 19th century, sociologist Max Weber dubbed our obsession the Protestant work ethic, arguing that Americans, whether consciously or unconsciously, see work as a virtuous calling from God. Hard work is moral worth. So no matter how you position it, here in the U.S., UBI will sound like a handout, a free pass given to those unwilling to put their nose to the grindstone and do what it takes to find a job. Another problem would be getting a UBI bill passed. Other than the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery, UBI would be the most controversial legislation ever brought before the United States Congress, and I just don't see it garnering enough votes. But UBI is problematic on an even more fundamental level. For most people, work is a paycheck. It's how we define ourselves, what gives meaning and direction to our lives. Even if UBI provides us with enough money to live and pay our bills, is that enough? How will we fill our days if we're not working? UBI proponents argue that with our basic financial needs allotted for, we can now pursue the more creative sides of our natures, become writers, artists, and poets, participate in charitable endeavors, even become entrepreneurs. I don't know about you, but the majority of people I know are neither artists nor writers, nor are they entrepreneurs. And if they're not that, and they're not working, are they? This is John Revito saying, thanks for listening. If you have any questions or need additional information on any of these podcasts, please go to our website at ageoftheobsolete.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.